All right, let's get you updated on our grain trade here on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to you. And let's take a look at that corn market. It was about as flat as could be when we opened things up. Currently in Chicago on the big board, we'll begin with that March contract. It's down one lonely tick at 388.5, so not much going on. May down a half cent. All right, on the soybean trade, is it doing anything much more exciting? Well, not much, but it is higher by a half cent. We have January at 934.5. March up a half at 942 3/4. On the wheat market in Chicago, we have the March now 2 1/4 higher at 541 3/4. In the Kansas City market, the March is showing more strength. Now here, we're up a nickel at 463.5. Isn't that interesting? Just a penny off of our high of the day. We have rebounded off our earlier low now by a full nickel. If you look at the Minneapolis market, you have the March contract there trading 4 cents higher at 541 1/4. And it's time to check in with our regular contributor. Every week at this time, we check in with Ben Hushon of the mill in Whitehall, Maryland. He joins us right now. Ben, Merry Christmas to you and the gang there and your family. Thanks for joining us. What's going on in the Mid-Atlantic?
Merry Christmas right back to you, Marlin. Well, since we talked last week, the cold weather finally came into our part of the world. Daytime temperatures in the upper 20s and the nights in the teens. So that firmed up some of that ground that was too wet to get lime trucks on and in some cases pull some soil samples on. But that changed, but it was temporary. We're right back to 50-degree days, 54-degree days. So not a whole lot happening out in fields right now, but it sure is a nice December day.
Well, I know you had sent along some photos of what's going on out there, and it looks like, by and large, the crops are all out of the field. It looks like you're doing, if anything, maybe preparations for next spring, and it seems like you kind of wanted a timely focus on some of the farms out there with animal operations. Pretty fitting here with the manger scene and everything in play here this week.
Well, Marlin, I was just thinking, again, having grown up and worked in this community and the farming lifestyle, while many of us certainly tomorrow are going to be celebrating Jesus' birth, and we're going to be having lots of family time and in most cases a day off, anybody with farm animals really can't take the whole day off. Of course, anybody with livestock, especially those folks up north, you're feeding and checking water, which is pretty concerning. And, of course, the dairy farms, they'll all be up early, then back into the barn after a really big lunch. And don't get me wrong, they are all still going to enjoy the same thing the rest of us do. They get to take the entire day off. Great food and great family time. But that work never stops. And unless you're around the animals, and, again, especially the dairy, you sometimes forget that and take it a little bit for granted. So I wanted to give a little extra Merry Christmas out to those folks that help feed us all year long.
Good points, Ben, and I'm glad you brought that up. Nothing quite like actually feeding hay to the cattle out there in the bunk and in the manger on Christmas morning. Always an interesting kind of a perception on the holiday there. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you very much. And again, all our best for a very Merry Christmas to you and the family. Ben Hushon of the mill in Whitehall, Maryland. We'll come back in just a moment. We'll take a look at our livestock trade on the other side. Yesterday, after we closed up the markets, we had USDA issuing a quarterly hogs and pigs report and a cold storage report. And we have both of them for you right here. On the quarterly hogs and pigs, it was a little bit of a surprise when we look at the numbers. Everything was higher than what we had a year ago. So, for example, you had the all hogs and pigs category coming in at 77.3 million head. That was 3% higher than what we had 1 year ago at this time, down just a little bit from the September 1st timeframe. As far as the breeding inventory goes, it looks like we were up 2% from a year ago at 6.46 million head, up just a little bit from the previous quarter. And when you talk about the market hog inventory, we had 70.9 million head. That was 3% higher than a year ago. but it was down just ever so slightly from the last quarter. On the cold storage numbers, a quick glance here shows frozen red meat supplies overall compared to the end of October were down 2%, but compared to a year ago, they were up 2%. So you have a give and a take there. Frozen beef up 3% from October, but down 7% from a year ago. Frozen pork supplies down 6% from October and up 13% from last year. And the pork belly supplies were 14% higher than a year ago, or a month ago rather, and 40% higher than a year ago. So a big jump there, but that's kind of normal for the pork belly inventories. Looking at our current futures trade, we'll start with the live cattle board here, and we have seen some weaker tones showing up this morning. Right now, December is back to steady, unchanged at 122.40, but February down one tick. We're down 2 cents at 125.65. Now, the deferreds are a little bit weaker. April is down 15 cents, for example. If we move on to our feeder cattle market, they have turned mixed, and we have the nearby January contract 20 lower. It's now trading at 143.32, but the far out months are just a little bit higher. Now, the March is up just a nickel, April up 3 cents, and then May and August are showing small double-digit gains. Moving on to our lean hog trade as it stands right now, we currently have February just up 8 cents at 70.33, so it doesn't seem to be too much market impact off of those reports yesterday. April is now a dime higher at 77.65. The May contract is 7 higher at 83.97. So the word of the day is quiet in the livestock markets. And of course, everybody is more waiting for the China Phase 1 trade signing, I guess.
Hopefully sooner than later after 2020.
Probably a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much.